This review was prepared by Andreas Tsounis and Despina Xanthopoulou and published by TheoryHub. TheoryHub covers a wide range of theories and acts as a starting point for theory exploration in different research and teaching and learning contexts. This is a review of the social capital theory. Social capital refers to the structure and quality of social relationships and constitutes a positive product of social interactions that can be a source of benefits for individuals, social groups, and the society as a whole. The concept of social capital has evolved over 3 periods. The first period was at the beginning of the last century, reaching up to 1980. The second period took place in the 80s and 90s, when Pierre Bourdieu, James Coleman, and Robert Putnam developed the construct and were established as its main theorists. Finally, from the 90s onwards, several scholars have developed a strong interest in the construct, aiming to delimit the content of the term, to investigate its role in various scientific fields, and to measure it. The first person who used the term, social capital, was the pedagogue Lyda Judson Hanafan, who described it as the elements of everyday life such as goodwill, friendliness, mutual sympathy, and the breadth of social contacts. In 1961, the economist Jane Jacobs defined social capital as the existence and function of social networks in the big cities of the USA and claimed that it is the real wealth of these cities regarding their economic development. In the 70s, the economist Greg Laurie used the term in his study of social inequalities across various ethno-racial groups, defining it as the networks of family and social relations that can promote the knowledge and abilities of a person. According to Laurie, individuals' social connections determine their access to education, work, and other social goods. However, it was only during the 80s and 90s that social capital theory was grounded. The first to introduce social capital in a systematic manner was the sociologist Pierre Bourdieu, who approached it as individuals' access to a collective resource. Bourdieu distinguished between 4 forms of capital: the economic, the cultural, the symbolic, and the social. Economic capital is the basis. All the other types of capital stem from this through a series of complex and non-automated transformative processes, and, under certain conditions, may be converted to economic capital. For example, through social connections, individuals can have better access to financial resources. Similarly, James Coleman, who was primarily interested in the sociology of education, distinguished between physical, human, and social capital, and he highlighted the role of social capital for the creation of human capital. Finally, while Bourdieu and Coleman adopted an individualist approach to social capital, Robert Putnam proposed the collective approach that defines it as a public good. According to Putnam, social capital concerns the amount of trust and civic participation which is available in a community, a city, or a state and may facilitate interpersonal cooperation, from which all community members may benefit irrespective of their unique investment in social networks. From the 90s onwards, social capital theory gained momentum. Several scholars from different scientific fields, such as economics, sociology, psychology, and educational studies, attempted to conceptualize and understand the construct. At the same time, international organizations provided a framework regarding the definition and the dimensions of social capital. Despite these developments, Bourdieu and Putnam are still considered to be the main theorists of the concept. Social capital refers to the structure and quality of social relationships, from which individuals, social groups, and the society may benefit. Although the literature on social capital has grown significantly, there is no consensus regarding its conceptualization and operationalism. However, most scholars agree that social capital is a multidimensional resource that is generated through interpersonal interactions, and it includes both network ties and shared values, such as trust and reciprocity, that may facilitate cooperation and collective action. The main theoretical approaches to social capital as a resource are the individualist and the collective. According to Bourdieu, who is the main theorist of the individualist approach, social capital reflects the material advantages gained by individuals who participate in various social networks, as long as they adhere to certain rules of social behavior that apply within these networks. These networks constitute a collective resource that all participants have access to, and where their commitment and intentional action is required. Individual actors may create these networks and participate in compliance with the formal or unspoken rules of these networks in order to gain benefits. Thus, these networks are developed because of the deliberate effort aimed at maximizing a benefit. The amount of social capital to which individuals have access depends on the size of the network connections that they can effectively mobilize, and on the amount of social capital possessed by the individuals and groups of their social environment. Hence, emphasis is placed both on the extent and the content of social relationships. When it comes to the measurement of the construct, Bourdieu argued that it is better to be assessed at the individual level. That is, although Bourdieu recognized social networks and their function as a collective resource, he suggested that it is relevant to assess the amount of social capital each individual has access to because the results of the participation in the same social networks may be different for different individuals. Under this prism, the most important thing regarding the function and the benefits that derive from social capital is not its mere existence, but the extent to which an individual has access to and makes use of the available social capital. In addition, in order for social capital to happen, individuals need to be able and willing to engage in activities that promote social capital. Robert Putnam, who proposed the collective approach, conceptualized social capital as a set of characteristics of a community or social group, as well as the development of trust and reciprocity between the members of the community or the group. This means that community members can cope with the demands of an adverse situation by using the available resources that exist in their network. The positive effects of social capital may be boosted when these characteristics are activated, while they may be weakened when these characteristics are not used. For Putnam, social capital is a collective characteristic of social structures, and as such it must be conceptualized and measured as an ecological resource characterizing communities, groups or organizations. Thus, social capital is elevated from a feature of individuals to a feature of communities, becoming a collective trait that functions at the aggregate level. According to the collective view, the benefits of social capital as a resource go beyond each individual, since collective social capital impacts positively the communities where people live in, the organizations where they work, and the society as a whole. For example, social capital may increase a firm's productivity and innovation, contribute to community resilience, and to a country's financial development, even if its usefulness is not the same for all individuals in these groups. Based on its main characteristics and functions, social capital has been distinguished into bonding, bridging and linking, and structural, cognitive and relational. The first distinction refers to the proximity of linkages between different actors and the direction of social action, while the second refers to the specific dimensions of social capital. Bonding social capital refers to close, strong ties between individuals within a homogeneous group that strengthen the common identities and functions as a resource shared among members. Bridging social capital refers to more distant network connections amongst people of heterogeneous or different groups. Finally, linking social capital refers to vertical ties between people in different formal power hierarchies. In the case of bonding social capital, the social action has an inward direction, while in the case of both bridging and linking the social action is directed outward. The second distinction refers to the dimensions of social capital. Structural refers to externally observed social constructions such as closer network ties, as well as less proximal ties, that may both facilitate access to resources. Cognitive social capital refers to intangible aspects like shared values, attitudes, and beliefs. Finally, relational social capital, which was initially proposed by Nahapiat and Goschel, refers to the nature and quality of social relationships. However, this dimension is not widely used since it largely overlaps with cognitive and structural social capital. Despite the lack of consensus regarding what social capital is, the extant literature seems to agree about its role as a resource that captures both social norms and network connections. The most important social norms that are identified in the literature are trust and reciprocity. Trust refers to the actor's belief that, at worst, others will not knowingly or willingly do him harm, and at best, that they will act in his interests. Trust enhances collective behavior and productive cooperation, reduces transactional costs, strengthens the ability of individuals, groups, and organizations to work together for common purposes, and helps maintain peaceful and stable social relations. Reciprocity constitutes a dynamic social condition where people give, receive, and return emotional and functional support. Thus, reciprocity is a way to establish mutual social relationships, since giving implies a rigorous commitment to reciprocate. The exchange of mutual support motivates individuals to further reinvest in certain positive social relationships. Finally, beyond social norms, social capital concerns strong social networks, which constitute its structural aspect. Social networks encompass horizontal and vertical connections between individuals, social groups, and organizations that provide access to further resources, which, in turn, can be invested for gaining benefits. Next to these core dimensions, several other dimensions of social capital have been proposed in the literature but are considered problematic for several reasons. For example, social participation, which refers to active citizenship behaviors, broadly overlaps with network interactions that capture connectedness or structural social capital. Similarly, helpfulness, solidarity, or social responsibility overlap with trust and reciprocity. Social cohesion, which refers to the sense of security and coherence within the community, is more a result rather than a dimension of social capital. Justice and tolerance of diversity are close yet distinct constructs from social capital, while other dimensions, such as democratic orientations, cannot be broadly applied to define the construct. Given its relevance for economic, social, and political life, social capital has attracted significant attention in several scientific fields. Its usefulness as an individual and/or a collective resource has been widely recognized, since there is significant empirical evidence supporting its added value in explaining health promotion, economic development and sustainability, political participation and social life at work, in the family and at school. In what follows, the applications of social capital theory for understanding organizations, health, as well as school and family contexts, are presented. Social capital has been found to have beneficial effects for employees and organizations. Several studies that have examined workplace social capital as an individual asset indicated that it relates positively with job satisfaction, organizational commitment and work engagement, and negatively with job stress. However, in organizational studies, work social capital is primarily defined and measured as an ecological resource of an organization from which all members can benefit, even those with weaker social connections. As an ecological characteristic, work social capital may be perceived as a job resource at the organizational level of analysis that may motivate employees to fulfill their goals but also protect from the adverse effects of job stressor. Indeed, previous studies supported the positive relationship between work social capital and work engagement, as well as between work social capital and job performance. Work social capital may facilitate goal achievement in several ways. For example, work social capital allows better knowledge sharing due to trustfulness and lower transactional costs, while it may also contribute to intellectual capital creation and renewal, which is an important determinant of individual and organizational performance. Next to the motivational role of work social capital, several studies have provided evidence for its buffering effect on the relationship between workload or emotional demands and perceived stress. The link between social capital and organizational growth due to the above functions has been supported in several studies that provide evidence for its positive role in knowledge transfer and innovation adoption, as well as sales growth as a rate of organizational performance. A considerable number of studies have also tested the role of social capital as a social determinant of health. Higher social capital reflects better access to material, informational and effective resources that are embedded in social networks and may facilitate health promotion and prevention, but also deal with health problems. In line with the individualist approach, This may mean that individuals may have access to sources of emotional and instrumental social support in case of illness. In addition, social capital reflects a broader range of social participation, which may create a sense of belonging to the community and may reduce the stress which is associated with uncertainty and social isolation. Moreover, individuals' social participation may enhance the development of their social skills, which, in turn, may improve access to material resources and information regarding healthcare facilities. Similarly, social capital, as a collective resource, may benefit the health of a whole community. According to Putnam, communities with high levels of social capital may positively affect all community members through two paths. First, through the development and broadening of informal settings and forms of support, and, second, through the development of political action that demands governmental initiatives for the improvement of healthcare settings. The findings of systematic reviews and meta-analyses regarding the effects of social capital on health can be summarized as follows. The cognitive aspects of social capital are more clearly associated with better physical and mental health. Its beneficial effects are more systematic for certain health indicators, such as mortality levels, but contradictory for some others, such as obesity. Higher social capital implies better health outcomes for almost all age groups. The positive association between social capital and health has been confirmed in both cross-sectional and longitudinal studies. Social capital may buffer the negative consequences of low socioeconomic status on health, and its favorable effects are more systematic when it is captured as an intervention. However, it is important to note that empirical findings are not always comparable due to the lack of agreement regarding the definition and measurement of the construct. Also, literature provides evidence for the applications of social capital in several other contexts, such as in schools and the family. The study of school social capital is based on Coleman's approach, who focused on several functions of social capital, such as information, obligations, and social norms, which are transmitted through social ties within schools, promoting children's flourishing. The main indicators of social capital in the relevant studies include student-teacher relationships, students' participation in extracurricular activities, and contacts between school and parents. Empirical evidence showed that social capital is positively related to students' academic achievements and well-being and negatively to victimization. Several studies have also examined the effects of the social capital of the family on family members. It is argued that family social capital is a relevant family resource, since family constitutes a primitive social context which provides instrumental and emotional support that is important for lifespan development. Empirical evidence showed that family social capital relates positively to family members' well-being and better health outcomes. Thank you for listening. To download the full review or to read other theory reviews, visit open.ncl.ac.uk.